we need to not just get in touch with it, but get in touch with practices that would enhance it. And of course, nothing enhances better than just doing it, really. Just employing the techniques. And however mild they seem, the effect will be there. You'll see it. But there are ways of developing it. Round the whole concept of bodhicitta is the concept of immeasurability. You'll see this a lot in prayers, immeasurability. Because bodhicitta comes into this third scope, I mean, we are talking about something very special. That's why I started today, if you remember, looking at what this is, where it comes in, right? Where is it born from? Where is bodhicitta? What gives birth to bodhicitta? Great compassion. What gives birth to great compassion? Renunciation. What gives birth to renunciation? Letting go of attachment. How do you let go of attachment? Studying the initial course, the initial stage. So this is not a small emotion here. It's nothing less than a primary mind. That's what bodhicitta is. It's actually a primary mind. And if you use bodhicitta to enhance the wisdom of emptiness, you have ultimate bodhicitta. So we're talking something big here. We're talking something very big. So anything we can do to enhance this will be very useful. So what you have here in front of you, I handed out earlier, is meditations on the 4 immeasurables. Do you still have that? Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about immeasurability, we're looking at object, and the object are sentient beings. So sentient beings are seen as being immeasurable. So not just human beings, not just animals, but all the beings in the different hell realms, and there's quite a few. The beings that are pretas, hungry ghosts, beings that are in the god realms, right? So these are immeasurable. And the love and compassion that we are asked to develop in relation to bodhicitta is to every one of those. We find it difficult just being equitable to everybody in the family, the whole of human beings, but we're not even talking about human beings here. We're talking about all sentient beings. And the reason we have to do this is because, well, there's quite a few reasons, but one of the things to remember is consciousness is not human. Okay. Consciousness is configured at the moment within a human brain. So we see it as human consciousness. But when that consciousness is configured by the brain of a dog, it'll be a dog consciousness. We can't afford to discriminate here. Because all these animals, all these beings, in whatever realm of existence, has Buddha nature. And we have to talk to all of them. And one of the basis premises, which is very tricky, they say it's one of the most difficult things to get in Buddhism, and that is that every sentient being has been our mother. That's one of the hardest. They say there's 2 very hard things to get hold of in the Dharma. 2, I thought. Anyway, 2 major. One is seeing your guru as the Buddha, right? And 2, seeing all sentient beings as being mother. But the Buddha very clearly said, he has not seen one sentient being that has not been the mother of all the rest. So when we come to immeasurability, we talk about immeasurable in relation to the object. And the object is every sentient being without exception. And you're looking here also at immeasurable equanimity, not your ordinary equanimity, immeasurable equanimity, immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, and immeasurable joy. So all of this you're thinking, oh, I give up now. Never give up, ever. So the one thing that can help is this particular prayer. Now I know prayers can be a bit tricky, but really see them as a study guide. See them as an aid to your meditation. Now, if you look at that, it says meditation on the 4 immeasurable thoughts. This prayer is done every puja, every initiation, almost every teaching will have this prayer. And normally it goes very quick. But really, if you want to develop bodhicitta, you have it here. So you start and you sit down, you quieten the mind, you quieten the body, and you look and you start. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distance. And you sit with that and you say, what does that mean to me? And what you have here is an immeasurable wish. This is an immeasurable. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free from hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distance. This is an immeasurable wish. So you read it, you think about it, you bring to bear any understanding you have and sit with it. What is this saying to you? Then you go, may they abide in equanimity. So you're going from an immeasurable wish here to an immeasurable prayer. May they abide in equanimity, right? The next bit. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. This is an immeasurable superior intention. This is the time when you take responsibility. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. And this is an immeasurable request. This whole verse is about immeasurable equanimity. How do you meditate on immeasurable equanimity? Use that as your basis. It's beautiful. It has everything in it. It's got the immeasurable wish, prayer, superior intention, and the request. Then you go into the next verse. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. This is immeasurable love. How do we know this? Because the definition of love is wanting others to be happy. It's not sticky, it's very clear. So this is a meditation on immeasurable love. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. This is an immeasurable wish. And you sit there with that thought and you think, what does that actually mean to me? How could this possibly be? And then you think, it's possible. You could end up thinking, it's possible. Then you think, may they have happiness and their causes. Your immeasurable prayer. Then you go on. You let that sit for a while. Then I myself will cause them to have happiness. It's caused them becomes an immeasurable superior intention. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. Recognizing that you need help and advice. Who are you going to go to? Ghostbusters. You go to the best. You go to the best. The Guru, who is the one with the deity. Right? Bless me to be able to do this. Immeasurable request. This is about developing immeasurable love. The next one. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. Now, this is immeasurable compassion. How do you know? Because the definition of compassion is not wanting others to suffer, really. Not wanting, it's nothing like, there's nothing sticky, there's nothing, you're not in there. It's not wanting others to suffer. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of suffering and its causes. An immeasurable wish. May they be free of suffering. So you're upping your game here, an immeasurable prayer. I myself will cause them. Now the superior intention comes in. So you can feel your mind just getting stronger and more. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do. Recognize you need the help. Who else is going to go to? How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from their happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. This is immeasurable joy, because in the Dharma there is no better joy than this. May they never be separated from these, the prayer. I myself will cause them never to be separated from these, the immeasurable superior intention. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this, the immeasurable request. So if you're looking for a practice to develop your bodhicitta, this is the basis. But it's not the case of just reading the prayer and then that next. No. So you'll bring your understanding into that. You'll bring your knowledge into that. And it may be that when you get to the stage of may all sentient beings have happiness in the cause, may they have happiness. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this about that request. At the end of that, you may do a meditation like we did here, the second meditation, where you think of someone and you give, you think of someone close to you and you develop this loving compassion. You let it take over your body, then you give out. So you might do that particular meditation. To be honest, it's a very good one to do at the end of each one of these. But you can do almost anything. So it's a structure. It's completely accurate. And you bring your knowledge and your understanding into it. And at the end of each verse, if you can, when you say, please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this, literally feel that love and compassion that you have for that special person in your life, someone that makes you feel like that, and do that meditation the second one you did. Let it build up. And when you give out that equanimity. Be targeted. If that's the part you're doing, when you give out, when that light goes out, that light nectar goes out, at the tip of each light, immeasurable equanimity. And you can do that after each verse, but each verse, immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy. Not only will you really know that meditation at the end of the session, it'll be quite targeted. And the more you study, the more you reflect, the richer these things become. When you haven't studied and you've not reflected, then really they're just words. They're nice words, and they will make an imprint, a positive imprint, but they won't really change very much. But use them like a structure and study a little bit, think about it, reflect, discuss it, then this becomes very, very rich indeed. Anything about that? Can you see that that might be useful or not really?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? I'd like to say something now about faith. You see, you have to do these. Why would you do these practices unless the three jewels were speaking to you in some way? You wouldn't spend time on this unless you had some sort of faith in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the three jewels. Otherwise, why? Why would you walk the path? The problem comes with the words. And the words like impermanence has a connotation, words like emptiness have a connotation, they're all negative. And the words like faith have got a wee bit of negativity. Yes? People. So just think for a minute. Someone says you need faith. What type of words, just for a minute, just think, what type of words come to your mind? Faith.
It's something of giving yourself up and giving something like giving yourself up or trying to know, putting your faith into something else.
Okay, right. Yeah. So it's a kind of giving power over to someone else.
Very, very sure.
Okay. Yeah. What other words come in?
Stepping over a void, over something you can't possibly know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Trust. Confidence.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. What else? What else comes to mind with faith?
There is for me some negative also
Okay.
connotations related to religion,
Yes.
as a dogma, as
Yes.
something I don't understand, but I just have to do because someone told me it's
Just
the
have
right
faith.
way, and just shut up and do it.
The
This
problem
was
is
written.
you have these problems because you don't have enough faith. And really, difficult to, what they're talking about is some sort of blind faith.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about.
It's a kind of mistrust actually in you
Yes.
knowing what's right because you have to do
You don't know anything.
this instead of asking questions.
You're down here. You don't know anything. God is up here. The gap. Just believe. Blind faith. No problem. You see, the Dharma doesn't look at it like that. The Buddha never looked at it like that. The Buddha sees faith as a kind of trust and a type of confidence. And there was a quote, I wrote it down here. The Buddha said, "Wide open is the door of deathlessness." Okay, deathlessness. "To all who have the ears to hear, let them send forth faith to meet it." Now, this is interesting. So what's happening is the doors of freedom are open, right? It's there. But we need to send something forth to meet it, right? So it has to be a wee bit active here. Now, what is it meaning in the Dharma? Some people have spontaneous faith in the Buddha. They just do. From previous lifetimes, they come and they've got the faith. And if you've got faith in the Buddha, then of course you have faith in the Dharma. And of course you've got respect for the Sangha. Of course. That'll come. For other people, they hear the Dharma, they hear it, and they're looking at the statue thinking, gold, holding something. And they listen to the Dharma, and something happens with the Dharma starts to act on their mind. They start to hear things that make sense. And what happens sometimes is this. They're hearing, they're not taking, they're hearing and they're thinking, I kind of admire that. I admire that. There's a kind of admiration comes. And this is a kind of faith. From a Dharma point of view, this is a kind of faith. It's admiring the teachings, admiring them, thinking to yourself, this is worthy of respect. I have kind of a bit of a confidence coming here that this would be useful. And the people who behave like this, I kind of admire them, right? And that's what's called like an admiring faith. You develop this a bit further, and suddenly you're thinking, I would like to be like that. You know, and so you develop a kind of aspiring. I aspire to be like that. So aspiring faith is recognized as faith. When you walk the path of it and you start getting a real taste for it, at one point, and I don't know about others, but I never know when it was actually pinpointed, but it becomes a conviction that this is the way I need to go. What you're not convinced of is that everybody else has to do it. You know, you're not sort of saying to yourself, this is the only way, you know. What you're saying is, I admire that. I aspire to that. And now I'm kind of convinced this is my way. There's no evangelical business here. If someone asks you, you can share it, of course. And you can say, this is what I believe. But you don't say, this is the truth and all that's nonsense. No. The Dharma values your experience. I mean, the whole thing, I mean, the Buddha said, didn't he? Don't believe anything just because I said it. I mean, imagine the head of any religion saying, well, by the way, don't believe anything just because I said it. You know, test it like gold. Test it as you would, and there was lots of tests then for gold because there was a lot of fake gold around. So there's all these tests they did. And then, when you're convinced, then, fine, you have it. This is important. The Dharma values your judgment. It values your experience. In fact, you have to experience the Dharma. The Dharma, all the activities in the Dharma, they're not nouns, they're actually doing things. And you're the only one that you know that you're doing it well. You know what I mean? You're achieving something. So you need to have that internal confidence. But that's not to say the Dharma doesn't value the wisdom of teachers. And by teachers, I am talking about people like Geshe Sherab, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa, you know, teachers. So the wise person listens to that counsel. So they're not saying, just go your own way, trust your own intuition, you know. Well, sorry, if I continue to trust my own intuition, I'll still be suffering for generations to come and lifetimes to come. So it's not, so you learn in the Dharma, you're learning to value pure, authentic teachings. You're learning to value that. And you're learning to respect the teachers, very much so, but never at the expense of what you're experiencing in your judgment, never. So I'm saying faith is important. In fact, without it, you need to send, as the Buddha said, send that forth. But in sending that forth, that sometimes it does bridge a gap. Because sometimes you learn this and you think, and you try it out and that works, and you think, I've judged that, that's my experience. You do something else and you're taught that, and then there comes a bit where you can't see the logic and you're not sure how to get to this bit. You're just not sure. So you make a choice. This worked, this worked, this worked, and this worked. I'm going to send my faith out across that divide and see if this works. So there is a time when you do that. You need to kind of, as the Buddha said, send that faith forth. However, once you're there, check it out. You check it out. Does it accord with your experience? But it's not everything in the Dharma comes over logically. Not everything. Any questions about that? I think it's important to look at faith. I mean, it really is, because otherwise it's something we fudge.
I was so confused when you said, I was a little bit confused when you said that if you trusted your own intuition, you'd be stuck in suffering.
Well,
But
I
just, I mean, maybe I'm not getting something.
No,
but isn't your intuition this light source inside you that's kind of guiding you?
well, it could be. It is possible.
But isn't necessarily
No.
true?
How many times have you done something because you intuitively wanted to do it and it was just the wrong thing?
No,
to
you
do?
thought it was intuition.
Of course.
But it wasn't intuition.
Why not? Because it didn't work.
No.
Because it didn't work. We sometimes feel an inner voice, right, that we label as intuition. And certainly within, the last few years, people are saying, this is the voice you listen to. Okay, well, okay, we all have an inner voice, and sometimes it works. And a lot of times it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's not, you see, we label intuition as being positive, but it's only a state of mind that you follow or you don't follow, like every other state of mind. Sometimes it leads in a good place, and sometimes it doesn't. But we've got into the habit of valuing this more than anything else. We just do. But how close is intuition to instinct? Ask yourself. There are times, of course, you'll get an idea, you'll get an intuition, you'll follow it, and it'll be absolutely perfect. And of course that happens, but it doesn't happen all the time. Animals work on instinct. They don't have the intelligence to actually create new pathways. They just don't. They work on instinct. Does that instinct work for them? Yes. Of course. Many times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times it works. As a human being, often our instincts work for us, and often they work against us. What makes the difference is intelligence. Really questioning what's coming up, where it's coming from, what your motivation is, what you want to achieve. Because I've had a lot of people say to me, yeah, but I just, my intuition is saying that. And I'm saying, well, that's fine. But you're really giving that an awful lot of value. You must have a lot of trust that this is coming from where? And people say to me, from my better self. Well, I've already got difficulty with that. I don't think the self exists at all, let alone a better one. Does it exist? Yes, of course. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We need to question all of this. And I think we have to look at these things because often we're valuing intuition. And I don't think we know why. Intuition, that what we have now, tends to come from misunderstanding of phenomena, as does every other mental state that we have. This is the premise. One of the reasons we're still in samsara, we're still suffering. The wiser you become, the less attached, then maybe the voice of what we call intuition will help us more. At the moment, I'm not sure I would trust. I might give it a go, but I wouldn't hang on to the results. I wouldn't, as we say, hold on my breath. Because I know that that mental state is coming from misknowing reality. And it may be okay for the short term, but it's never going to last. And it's never going to help me in this lifetime and other lifetimes. So you see, with all of this, the context within the Dharma is always more than one lifetime. And it's always more than one lifetime because of the understanding of the nature of the mind. This is why. It's not, I believe in reincarnation. That's a tenet, that's a dogma. There's no dogma. There really isn't. And the closest we've got to the Four Noble Truths, and none of that's to be believed. It's the closest we have to dogma, Four Noble Truths. But the Four Noble Truths are not to be believed. They're to be fully understood. They're to be abandoned. They're to be achieved. They're to be cultivated. It's all doing, us doing. So once you understand a bit about the mind and how the mind works, do I listen to my intuition? Of course I do. I'm human. But I don't rely on it. And when it goes wrong, I'm thinking, what do I expect? Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I am not prone to magical thinking. I have to say, it's not my thing. But I understand where it comes from, this intuition. And when I really thought about this, really strong and hard, because I have friends who are very, I would say very right-brained, very right-brained, lots of musical, and, they come from a different perspective. And they rely very strongly on their intuition. And we used to have lots of discussion. And I'd be thinking, oh dear, get a grip, But no, that's their reality, And sometimes they wouldn't even admit when it went wrong. Oh yeah, but that wasn't the right intuition. Just because it didn't work. So I started to think, how close is this to my idea of instinct? Could I say to myself, this was my intuition? Could I say the same thing, this is my instinct? Well, it felt like that to me, but then I'm not that bright. But it felt like it. Then I traced it back. Where did it come from? What is it? A magical thing, this intuition or instinct? Is it kind of came from nowhere? No, it came from my mind. It's in my mind. It's not magical. So it is a mental state. Something is occurring. But where did that come from? Everything is cause and effect. Where did it come from? And it comes from the same place. Misknowing reality. So it has a chance of working, and it's got a chance of not working in this lifetime. But I think, like everything else, all aspects of minds, this can be refined. Instinct can be refined. Intuition can be refined. The less you've got misknowing of reality, the more you have understanding of wisdom and compassion, then I think the voice that starts speaking to you and giving you ideas, it might be more reliable. Not ultimately reliable, but more reliable. But don't believe any of it. Try it out. See how it does. See how it does. I just feel that you have to come from more wisdom aspect. That's important. See things as they are. And from a Dharma point of view, that's quite clear. Try the difference. All you have to do is try these things. This is the thing. None of this is to be believed at all. Try it out. Next time your intuition says something to do something, then do or don't do. But look at the results and see if when you retrospect it then alters into something else. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's good to see it for what it is. I'm just not very good at kind of magical stuff. I'm sure it's around, just I don't have access to it at all. And this becomes quite important. So this type of thing is important, this belief. When you take refuge, you take strong, one of the commitments of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma and Sangha is you don't put any other religion down. You just don't do it. And so when it comes to faith, this makes sense. This is what I believe. It may not be what you believe. This is what I believe, but it doesn't mean to say it's right for you at the moment. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Not realize the terror we experience. So is there faith in the Dharma? Buddhism? Absolutely. But you have to really look at what it is. You have to look at what it is. Because one of the things they ask you to do is to trust, have confidence in your teacher, your spiritual guide. And again, by spiritual guide, I'm talking about the lamas, I'm talking about Lama Zopa Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai, the real guides. And they're asking you to have trust in these people. So you need to check them out. You need to check them out. Just because someone says they're teaching the Dharma, or they're hinting at teaching the Dharma, don't take that. Check it out. What type of qualities would you like? Just think for a moment. If there were 2 qualities that you would want in someone that's going to teach you something as important that will alter your mind totally, right? This is not just another piece of knowledge. This is something that's going to totally affect your mind. It's going to change it. Bodhicitta is a primary mind. It's going to change your mind. If you're going to go down this path, what type of qualities do you want from a teacher, a spiritual guide? Think about it. Think of at least 2. What type of things are you coming up with? Don't worry, it's close to the end. We'll be doing the dedication prayers soon. But it's important, this idea of spiritual guide. This isn't the Lam Rim. You have to be picky. You have to be choosy. You need to know what you want out of this. There are certain qualities that are in the text. There's 10 qualities in the text. But for you, beginning, it's hard to see these 10 qualities. So what is it that you want for something so important? You're not learning to go to drive or to, I don't know, bake a cake. This is something that's going to lead you to enlightenment. This is something that's going to alter your entire way of living, your entire way of being. This is something that's saying to you, all these people are as important as you. And you have to behave towards that. This is the Dharma. Your mind will be totally altered. So if you're going to go to someone for this, what qualities do you want in that teacher?
That they walk their talk.
Yes.
And have ethical conduct.
Yes. To me, primarily, they walk the walk, that they've got ethical conduct. Now, how do you know this? I mean, really, in today's day and age, they used to say in the text, check your teacher out for 12 years. If after 12 years, they prove to be ethical and walk, then take them as your teacher. Well, if you had nothing to do in Tibet, much, then maybe 12 years. I mean, you don't have 12 days here. But this is important. So how do you do it now, in today's age, to check that someone is ethical, good conduct, and is actually walking the path? Actually walking the path. How do you check that out? You should be shouting this at Google. Simply. That's the first thing I do. I Google them. And I Google what people say about, not just what they say about themselves, because that's what people do. If you want to learn about the FPMT, yeah, sure, go to the FPMT website. Is that all you would do? Not me, I'd be on Wikipedia. I'd be on what people were saying about them from all different angles. Because people will say positive, people will say negative. I will get the whole thing. What else will you do to check someone out?
Experience firsthand.
Go and trust your instinct. Go. See what you think. Not completely, but go. See how it feels. Because I don't know about you, but there must be certain people you've gone for teaching, you just thought, I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's quite useful. I'm more worried when I think, oh, wonderful. That worries me more than anything else. But then I'm just strange. Anyway. So what else? What else would you do? In this day and age, come on, tell me.
Talk to other disciples.
Yes, yes. If they've been around for a while, what are their students doing? How are their students behaving? Now, of course, we don't think they should be behaving perfectly, but generally, how are they behaving? What's their ethical conduct? Because I'm telling you, you choose a spiritual guide and you follow the teachers, you will become like your teacher. You will become like your teacher. So choose to love. What are their students doing? It's important. What else? How else do you check someone out?
Feel the presence. Feel the presence. Feel how you feel inside.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You.
And if it affects you.
It's true. Karma. I mean, I have to think from a karmic point of view. But some people have close karmic connections. Sometimes immediately you can see it. Immediately. Other times you just think, I'm comfortable here. It's not jarring. I'll go with this for a while always keeping your eye on. So yes, trusting your inner experience is important. It is important. It's not everything to me, but it's important. What else? Who's their teacher? I want to know. Who taught them? What's their lineage? I would like to know that. Also, I'd like to know, in that lineage, what type of, not teachings that they've had, but what type of practices they're doing. You can find out. Because they will take teachings from certain other teachers. You can find that out. How do they value the teachings? Do they value their students? You can tell if people value their students, or they just flit in and flit out. You can tell if you value it. When they're teaching you, do you get it? And if you don't get it immediately, do you see the possibility that you'll get it? There's something there, I don't quite understand it, but it's worth it. They have to know more than you. I mean, really. And the other way you check them out in the Dharma is that they're teaching pure Dharma.
I also think about the lineage. Like if somebody breaks with a well-known lineage, I also think you should worry a little bit, and they talk maybe badly about or something.
Yeah, well, their ethical conduct. If they start putting other people down, anybody down, it's tricky. But if they're putting down other Buddhists or their teachers, very difficult. Very difficult. I don't think I'd want. These days, it's not necessary. There's a lot of good teachers around. So I would be keen with that. But pure Dharma is interesting. Get an understanding of the Dharma, the pure Dharma, through the Lam Rim, for instance. No plug. Know it. Now, there's lots of different teachers around. Are they teaching the pure Dharma, or are they teaching their version of the pure Dharma? Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying that someone teaching their version of the Dharma is wrong. I'm not saying that. Because that version might be useful to you. But often when that happens, it's not made clear that this is a version and an alteration for the West. Sometimes they say, well, for the West we do this, and for this we do that. When that starts creeping into the conversation, I would check it out more. You may check it out and then decide, no, that's right, that is in accordance with how I feel. I go ahead. But you go ahead with understanding and wisdom. You don't go ahead because you think it's something else. So there's a lot of Dharma going about, which has a lot of twiddly bits on it. I call twiddly bits, sort of a bit of frill here, and it's mixed with this sometimes and mixed with that. If that suits you, that's fine, as long as you're clear about what that is. The problem comes when people go there and think that's pure Dharma. You see?
When you get experienced,
yes.
Then you have no idea.
But you do, because you learn.
Yeah.
You learn, and you ask questions. And listen to what people are saying. Listen to what they're saying. Because often they've broken away from the lineage, which is fine if that's what they want to do. And they've put up this slant on it, or that slant, or they're mixing with this practice. If they say it up front, that's what they're doing, then you've no problem. It's clear to you. You make a choice. You make a choice. The only worry I have is when I see this happening and this is not made clear. And so people come away thinking this is pure Dharma. See? Now, inevitably, when you hear the Dharma, you will add your own frilly bits. You just will. It's human beings, right? But you make sure it's your frilly bits, not anybody else's. Are you clear what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
There's a lot of teachers going around and they do good stuff, that know what they're doing, and never be afraid to say, is that your interpretation? How does that differ from, pure Dharma? And listen to the response. Listen to it. And if it's in accord with what you're thinking, you're no problem. But be clear. In the Dharma, they value lineage very, very highly. They value pure Dharma. When the Dharma finally went to Tibet, there's a reason it went to Tibet. Tibet was an absolute, it was a warrior thing. These people were warriors. They went into China and they went into Mongolia and India, they fought and all the rest of it. But before Dharma was totally destroyed in India, before every Buddhist was wiped out, the Dharma went to Tibet. And Tibet had a lot of things going for it. Tibet loved the Dharma so much. Before the Dharma, there wasn't even a written language. They learned the language simply so they could read the Dharma. That's why they did it. Tibet was so isolated that it kept the Dharma very pure, very clear, no frilly bits. And when you get a transmission from the Tibetans, word for word, full stop by full stop, comma by comma, there's no deviation. They value pure teachings. They value it. Does that mean we all have to become mini Tibetans? No. I'm not saying that. And there are some good teachers around who have got maybe an understanding of something and they've altered it in a slight way, or they played about with it and they've come up with Dharma that works for the West. I hear this all the time. As long as you're clear that's what's happening and you're happy with that, that's not a problem. You make a choice. But personally, better to have pure Dharma, and then if you have to, add your own frilly bits. Why would you adopt someone else's? That's what do you think? Too much, too little?
Oh, it's so important.
I think so.
Yeah, it's so important.
I think so.
But I don't understand what you mean pure Dharma, because there are many schools of
Okay.
Buddhism,
So I suppose what I'm talking about is lineage. What I'm talking about, for instance, the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism. The Dharma there is pure. The Dharma within those schools, they're pure, as far as I'm concerned. There's been no alteration or adaptation. There's been additions because of understandings by yogis and people's experience, certainly. And if you were to compare that to our Theravadan brothers and sisters, they would have a different take on it. So it's all up to the individual. I suppose what I'm really thinking about is the more modern trend of adapting things to fit in with the West. Now, do I think things should be adapted to fit in with the West? Absolutely. I really do. We're not Tibetans. And so I would value, taking the Dharma and using it as a Westerner. Dharma is biological. It grows and it adapts in different countries. That's true. Of course it does. And I think that's, to be honest, I think that is healthy. I think that's healthy. So what I'm saying is not you have to go to all the lamas and listen just to them. That's not what I'm saying. Whatever you're listening to, make sure you know what you're listening to. And it's not being presented as something else. Question. Ask questions. Because like everything else, there are, odd things happening in the world. Some people, they present what they say is Buddhism and Dharma, and it just isn't. But if you don't know any different, you think it is. And you're years along this path, and you suddenly realize what you've been doing is like incorrect. Not helpful. So what's the best way? Well, you have to educate yourself a wee bit. Nothing helps more than the Lam Rim. Nothing. I know I keep saying it, but it's true. That structure will be useful to you for the rest of your life. In the short term, though, it's something that you can measure against whoever's coming, whoever's teaching you. And just make sure that whoever's teaching you, you know where they're coming from. And there are some teachers that I know who present the Dharma in a completely different way to what I was used to. And I have learned so much, I can't tell you. Because the way they talk about it, the way they adjusted and adapted it to my way, and I could recognize this, I was able to progress more because of these particular types of teachers, right? But I knew what they were doing. And I checked the lineage. I checked what they were saying, and I was happy. But what I meet many times is people who have been mistaken in their teacher, mistaken in what they thought they were getting. Don't let it happen to you. That's all I'm saying. There is nothing more precious than a good teacher, nothing more precious than someone that's worthy to be your teacher, your guide. Know what the qualities are. Don't accept second best.
I think it's good to ask your teacher who the teachers are, who are your gurus. I think.
But mostly, teachers will tell you.
Yeah,
I mean,
think,
within the
yeah.
first couple of sessions, you know, if people don't realize Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa, His Holiness, Lam Rim, you might listening. You know, they'll, and often the real teachers, the real lamas, will say at the beginning of the teaching, "These are my teachers. This is my lineage." What are they doing? They're really just saying, "Please have confidence, because here I'm giving you clear teaching." Read any Dharma book by these great teachers, and they tell you who their teacher was, who that teacher was, what lineage, what teachings they came from. Why are they doing this? They're doing this to try and that you will have confidence in what they're giving you is pure Dharma, what they consider is pure Dharma. And if you get anything else from anyone else, and as long as they make it clear, you've no problem. That's what I'm saying. Know what you're getting. And ask questions.
How would you test the quality of selflessness?
Oh, I have no idea. Selflessness. I
Because
don't
we
know.
might mistrust the human.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. I don't think I could, because I don't have a realization of it. So I wouldn't, I know the theory, and I know how someone would act if they have that. So you look at it, and that's how I look at it. I sort of look at it. But sometimes good teachers will manifest different ways, and you're sort of going, what on earth is all that about? You have to make a choice. You have to be reasonable. Do your best. Do your best. And remember, many teachers, people have many teachers. We take teachings from many teachers, benefit. And then sometimes you meet someone that you want to be your particular special teacher, your particular guru. Fine. Until then, people say to me, I don't have a root guru. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, wonderful. Most people have an instinctive trust of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Most people. If you don't have a root guru, then in that place in your mind, put His Holiness there. You can't go wrong. You really just can't. No possible. So don't worry about that type of thing. It's going to happen. It will happen. When the time is right, you meet your guru, you know, whatever. Or you choose. I mean, I have a friend that chose. She weighed up all the cons like this and said, right, this person. And she stuck with it. No. We're all different.
But what if your root guru is dead?
Mm.
You still put.
Yeah, you still
That's not your root guru.
You can. Yes, you can. You can. I'm not sure how useful it will be, but you can. You keep them within that sphere of beings that have been very, very useful to you. Yes. And if you know the teachings very clearly, that's very good. And then if you see another teacher and you think it's getting close, you can ask. But really, with these special beings, and they are special, they're not like, I mean, these people are not like me. I don't know about you, but they're not like me. Their nature is all the same, you know. Their Buddha nature, their qualities are very similar. They're very similar. Meet the right teachers, they have the same type of mind. We make a demarcation. Somebody once asked Lama Yeshe, you know, how do you know you're a guru? And it's different for everybody, eh? And he said, for him, a root guru is someone that shakes your mind. really shakes it. Thought that was useful. Okay, you've done well. I don't know. You put up with all this. Any final questions?
Is there, let's say, space for blind faith for dogmas in Buddhism? Because there are some aspects that are difficult to experience, or
Yeah, there are
like,
things that,
rebirth and reincarnation, things like that. Which,
But
some people say, I believe in that, or I don't believe, but it's still a belief. It's not an experience for
I
many
know.
people.
and of
What do
course
you do
the
with
experience.
that?
Well, I don't know about blind faith, but based on experience of other things within the Dharma, you send that faith forward, but it has to meet something. It has to meet that deathlessness. You know what I mean? It has to meet the Dharma. It has to meet it. Sometimes it's not logical. Sometimes there's things that are just a bit too big. But if you've got confidence that this, and this has been working, and you can kind of see, then sometimes you take that leap. But I don't think that leap is blind faith, because I think it's based on what's gone before. And it's based on admiring and aspiring. See, what we really think of faith is conviction. And that can be hard for things like reincarnation, especially if we don't understand the nature of it, or we don't get a taste of the nature of it. But remember how I started with this, admiring faith, aspiring. These are all faiths. And the last one is kind of like a conviction faith. You know. And sometimes it's not faith in the whole package. Sometimes not. But you can feel it's there. You can feel it's there. You've done really well. I'm always so surprised people are still sticking around. That's great. On Tuesday, the last part I want to look at, the Lam Rim, is the nature of reality. This idea of emptiness. This idea of emptiness. I was going to tackle that today, but I just wanted to spend more time on the bodhicitta. It just seems to me that everything that's going on at the moment is polarizing people in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of fear coming up because of it. So sometimes we need to say, how do we address it? So that's why I spent a bit longer on this than I would on anything else. So Tuesday, emptiness. The nature of reality in 2 hours. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. Okay. The one thing I'd like you to take away with you, could you point this out? It may mean nothing to you, but I think when it comes to bodhicitta, this quote by Lama Tsongkhapa is, I think, the essence of all. It says, on the ground of equanimity, okay, on the ground of equanimity, pour the water of love, sow the seeds of compassion, and from these the harvest of bodhicitta will grow. Not only does this say all, but it's also in sequence, and I kind of like that. If you want to harvest bodhicitta, make your ground equanimity, immeasurable love, pour the water of love, sow the seed of immeasurable compassion, and from these, the harvest of bodhicitta will grow. And just before we do the last prayer, I have not forgotten, does anyone have a few words in Danish or from the Danish that means attachment? Did you come up with anything?
I have one word. You got some? Tilhørsforhold.
And that means?
Tilhørighed. Is it? Is it still too nice? Yeah. But it's not as nice as tilknytning.
What is it?
Tilknytning is like something really positive. Tilhørsforhold is more like neutral.
It's my relationship to Denmark. That's what they measure if I'm qualified to be Danish. So citizenship, they would measure my commitment and my relationship to country, people, job, network, taxes.
It's more than that. Yeah, more than that.
No,
Anyone
it's
else?
more.
More than that.
Yeah, but ikke give slip på. I will not let go of.
Okay, that's close.
So I could, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Okay, let's close it. Anything else? It's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about because it's important. The attachment is really what you have to let go of, not desire for it. And from our Theravadan brothers and sisters, a lot of people talk about letting go of desire, things like this. But certainly within the the Tibetan Buddhist context, it's a different word, really. And they see nothing wrong with having desire for enlightenment, for instance. Nothing wrong with that. The problem there is a different word in Tibetan, and it means attachment. It means being attached to something. And that's what you have to let go. So it's worth thinking about it in Danish. See if you can come up.
Vedhæftet, which means almost stapled. You know, if you're going to send a document, you staple it to the original.
Okay.
So you're stapled to it.
That's good.
Like you attach the file.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Please see the enclosed attachment, and you're stapled to it. You're married, so you're stapled to it.
Married and stapled.
Yeah.
People, we don't say that.
No, exactly.
No.
This is where the paradox is in that.
Yeah.
What is
Skal vi vedhæftes? Shall we?
it? Sounds really fun.
So it's something for us all to think about because it's not just a word. This is an important word in the Buddha Dharma. They'll use it a lot.
Maybe
You go to
there's
teach
no
it.
attachment in
Yes.
Oh, that's possible. I mean,
If there's no word for it.
I don't have it.
I don't quite believe that because we're still here. We're still here.
With the-
So we'll do the general dedication prayers. So whenever you're doing dedication, you remember the motivation you had in the beginning, and you've created energy doing something positive. Now you direct that positive energy to your motivation. That becomes dedication. Direct it. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme pure bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform good works. Sometimes in the prayers that was altered to, so that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deeds. So you'll see the same prayer, just slightly different word. I want to thank you very much. And I hope to see you on Tuesday when we will tackle emptiness. And Tuesday is my last day with you. So
A rough guide to emptiness.
rough guy, very rough. Yes, very rough. Yes. Very rough guide to emptiness. Yes. Oh yes.
Yes, we just we had an email from FPT that Lam Rim recommends very much that we in the different centers do Sitigava practice, which is a special practice which prevent earthquakes. There's a great danger for earthquakes in California and in Nepal. And yet, and we will talk about it with Christina, and we will put up some dates where we do it. And they all, so just look up for it if you're interested in doing it. He also recommends we do the 8 Mahayana precepts. I don't know if but at least we can do a Sitigava practice, isn't it? Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he has kind of recognized various cities, various powers. And one of the ways he makes use of that is to see sometimes that certain practices at certain times done by certain people will in fact have very positive results. I mean, this has been his way for as long as I've known him. And wonderful results from that. So when Rinpoche advises a particular practice, it's usually because he's done various divinations and has found out that this was very beneficial in this particular place. He has this quality, it's one of his qualities, one of his cities. He can do this. Not everybody can, I mean, not all lamas can, but he can. This is why, if you say, you know, a spiritual guide, someone is, you know, for me, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I think of anyone better than me. Because everything we've talked about, lineage, ethical conduct, the way he looks after his students, the way he looks after the FPMT, the advice, the teachings, his abilities, very clear, very clear. Other people recognize them, other people, you know, higher up, I mean, it's well recognized. So if you ever get the chance to go to teachings with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I highly recommend you go. Just go. And another recommendation is sit close to the front. When in the West, we tend to hang back, right? If you ever get the opportunity to go, get to the front. Catch yourself a monk or a nun and say, I've never met Rinpoche before, can I sit near the front? I guarantee within the FPMT, they'll march you down the aisle and find you a seat. Nothing in my mind comes pure. Mind you, I've only been checking him out 37 years. So there is room for error. Not a lot. Thank you very much. Just a little plug for you. I don't know how I get away with it.